The day started like any other for Sarah Chen, a young astronomer at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. She sipped her coffee, checked her emails, and settled in for another long night of stargazing. Little did she know that this ordinary night would change the course of human history forever. As Sarah scanned the night sky, something unusual caught her eye. A cluster of objects, too large and too fast to be asteroids, was approaching Earth's orbit. Her heart raced as she double-checked the readings. This was no error. She quickly alerted her supervisor, Dr. Rodriguez. "We need to contact NASA immediately," Dr. Rodriguez said, his voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. Within hours, observatories and space agencies worldwide confirmed the sighting. Strange, metallic ships of enormous size were entering Earth's orbit. The news spread like wildfire across the globe. Social media exploded with theories, ranging from the hopeful to the apocalyptic. World leaders scrambled to respond. The United Nations called an emergency session. In living rooms and public squares across the planet, people gathered around screens, waiting for news. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation and fear. As the alien ships drew closer, attempts at communication began. Radio signals, light patterns, and even mathematical sequences were broadcast towards the visitors. But the aliens remained silent. Their ships hung in the sky, dark and mysterious, ignoring all attempts at contact. Days passed, and tensions rose. Military forces worldwide were put on high alert. Fighter jets patrolled the skies, while naval fleets positioned themselves strategically around the globe. The silence from the alien ships was deafening and increasingly ominous. In labs and universities, scientists worked around the clock to understand the alien technology. Dr. Emily Sato, a brilliant physicist from Tokyo University, made a startling discovery. The alien ships were emitting an unknown form of energy that seemed to be affecting Earth's atmosphere. "We don't know if it's intentional or just a byproduct of their technology," Dr. Sato explained in a hastily arranged press conference. "But it's clear that their presence alone is changing our planet." As the world grappled with this new reality, stories of human resilience began to emerge. In New York, a group of hackers worked tirelessly to boost Earth's communication signals. In a small village in Kenya, a young girl with a passion for astronomy provided valuable data from her homemade telescope. Humanity was coming together, facing this unprecedented challenge as one. But not everyone reacted with unity. Reports of looting and violence surfaced in some cities. Doomsday cults gained thousands of new followers overnight. The stock market plummeted as economies worldwide braced for the unknown. On the seventh day of the aliens' arrival, something changed. The largest of the ships began to descend towards Earth. Its destination, the plains outside of Geneva, Switzerland, home to CERN, the world's largest particle physics laboratory. As the ship lowered, a mix of military forces, scientists, and diplomats gathered at the site. The world watched with bated breath. Would this be the moment of first contact, or the beginning of an interstellar war? The ship touched down, sending a cloud of dust billowing into the air. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, with a hiss of otherworldly hydraulics, a door opened in the side of the vessel. A figure emerged, clearly not human. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, with iridescent skin and multiple limbs. In one of its appendages, it held a device that began to glow. Suddenly, every electronic device in the vicinity came to life, displaying the same message in every human language. "We come seeking a new home. Your world has what we need. Prepare yourselves." The message was clear, but its implications were terrifying. This was not a friendly visit. It was the beginning of an invasion. As the alien retreated into its ship, the assembled humans erupted into chaos. Military leaders called for immediate action, while scientists pleaded for more time to understand the situation. Diplomats argued for continued attempts at communication. In the confusion, no one noticed the small drones that had been released from the ship. By the time they were detected, it was too late. The first attack in the war for Earth's future had already begun. Sarah Chen, watching the events unfold on her computer screen back in Arecibo, felt a chill run down her spine. She had always dreamed of discovering alien life, but not like this. Never like this. As the sun set on this historic day, humanity faced its greatest challenge yet. The fight for Earth's survival had begun, and no one knew what the coming days would bring. But one thing was certain: humanity would not go down without a fight. The world woke up to a new reality. Alien ships hovered over major cities, their massive forms blocking out the sun. People looked up with a mix of fear and awe, wondering what would happen next. In New York City, Jake Thompson, a firefighter, started his shift like any other day. But as he climbed into his truck, he noticed something strange. The air felt different, thinner somehow. "Hey, Cap," Jake called out to his captain. "You feel that?" Before the captain could answer, their radios crackled to life. Emergency calls were flooding in from all over the city. People were having trouble breathing. Across the globe, similar reports poured in. In Tokyo, London, Mumbai, and countless other cities, people gasped for air. Hospitals quickly filled up with patients showing signs of oxygen deprivation. Dr. Maria Gonzalez, a pulmonologist in Mexico City, worked tirelessly to save her patients. As she hooked up another person to an oxygen tank, she realized with horror that their supply was running low. "We need more oxygen," she shouted to her team. But as they checked their reserves, they found them mysteriously depleted. Scientists around the world raced to understand what was happening. In a lab in Berlin, Dr. Hans Müller made a shocking discovery. The air's oxygen content was dropping at an alarming rate. "It's the aliens," he announced to his colleagues. "They're using some kind of technology to remove oxygen from our atmosphere." The news spread quickly. Panic set in as people realized the aliens were trying to make Earth's air unbreathable for humans. Governments scrambled to respond. Emergency broadcasts instructed people to stay indoors and conserve oxygen. But for many, it was already too late. In the streets of Cairo, Ahmed, a young boy, watched in horror as his neighbors collapsed, gasping for air. He ran home, tears streaming down his face, only to find his parents struggling to breathe. Military forces worldwide launched attacks against the alien ships. Fighter jets screamed across the sky, firing missiles at the massive vessels. But their weapons seemed useless against the advanced alien technology. In orbit, astronauts on the International Space Station watched helplessly as the Earth's atmosphere changed color, a visible sign of the oxygen depletion. "We have to do something," Commander Sarah Lee said, her voice tight with determination. She and her crew began working on a plan to use the station's resources to help Earth. Back on the ground, survivors retreated underground. Subway systems, bunkers, and caves became shelters as people sought places where the air was still breathable. In the White House Situation Room, world leaders gathered virtually to discuss the crisis. The President of the United States, her face grim, addressed the group. "We are facing an unprecedented threat," she said. "But humanity has faced challenges before, and we've always overcome them. We will not let these aliens defeat us." As she spoke, reports came in of a breakthrough. A team of scientists in India had developed a way to quickly generate oxygen. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it could buy them time. Jake, the firefighter from New York, found himself leading a team to set up these new oxygen generators. As he worked, he saw people coming together, helping each other despite their fear. In hospitals around the world, doctors like Maria fought to keep their patients alive. They worked tirelessly, using whatever resources they had available. Underground, in a makeshift lab, a group of scientists worked on a more permanent solution. Led by Dr. Aisha Okafor, a brilliant chemist from Nigeria, they sought a way to neutralize the aliens' oxygen-depleting technology. "We're close," Aisha told her team, her eyes bright with hope despite her exhaustion. "We just need a little more time." But time was running out. Above ground, the aliens had begun to leave their ships. Strange, suited figures walked the empty streets, seemingly unaffected by the lack of oxygen. In orbit, Commander Lee and her crew made a daring move. Using the station's thrusters, they positioned themselves to broadcast a signal that interfered with the alien ship systems. For a moment, the oxygen depletion slowed. It wasn't much, but it was enough to give the people on Earth a fighting chance. As the sun set on this terrifying day, humanity faced its darkest hour. But in labs, in hospitals, in underground shelters, and even in space, people refused to give up. Jake, setting up another oxygen generator, looked up at the alien ship looming overhead. "We're not done yet," he muttered, his jaw set with determination. "This is our home, and we're going to fight for it." The battle for Earth's air had only just begun. But with each breath, humanity showed its resilience, its ingenuity, and its unwavering will to survive. As the world gasped for air, human ingenuity sparked to life. In a secret underground lab in Tokyo, Dr. Yuki Tanaka worked tirelessly on a device she hoped would save humanity. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but determination burned bright within them. "Just a few more adjustments," she muttered, her hand steady as she connected the last wire. The machine in front of her hummed to life, its soft blue glow filling the room. Dr. Tanaka held her breath, not daring to hope. Then, a small meter on the device began to rise. Oxygen levels in the room were increasing. "We did it," she exclaimed, turning to her team. "The oxygen regenerator works." News of Dr. Tanaka's invention spread like wildfire. Governments and private companies around the world scrambled to replicate and mass-produce the device. In factories that once made cars or electronics, assembly lines now churned out oxygen regenerators. Meanwhile, in the vast Australian outback, a different kind of solution was taking shape. Engineer Steve Cooper stood at the entrance of an enormous cave system, overseeing the construction of a massive underground city. "We're creating a safe haven," he explained to a group of reporters. "These caves will protect us from the aliens' oxygen-depleting weapons and give us a place to regroup." Similar projects sprang up around the world. Mountains were hollowed out, underground tunnels expanded, and submarine bases repurposed. Humanity was going underground, but they were far from defeated. In orbit, the crew of the International Space Station had become humanity's eyes in the sky. Commander Sarah Lee floated in front of a bank of screens, coordinating with ground control. "The aliens seem to be concentrating their efforts on major population centers," she reported. "We're tracking their movements and relaying the information to resistance groups on the ground." Back on Earth, those resistance groups were growing in number and effectiveness. In the ruins of Chicago, a former high school teacher named Mike Rodriguez led a team of hackers and engineers. They had managed to salvage alien technology from a downed scout ship. "If we can understand how their tech works," Mike said, his fingers flying over a keyboard, "we might be able to find a weakness." His team worked day and night, reverse engineering alien devices and developing countermeasures. Their efforts paid off when they created a small device that could temporarily disrupt the aliens' oxygen-depleting field. As these pockets of resistance grew stronger, the aliens intensified their attacks. In London, aliens in sleek battle suits marched through the streets, their weapons vaporizing anyone who stood in their way. But they were met with surprising resistance. Lucy Chen, a young chemist, had developed a special smoke grenade that confused the alien sensors. As the alien troops advanced, resistance fighters led by Lucy ambushed them, using her invention to level the playing field. "For Earth," Lucy shouted as she hurled a grenade, her voice fierce with determination. The fight was far from over, but humanity was adapting, learning, and fighting back with everything they had. In a hidden bunker beneath the Pentagon, military leaders from around the world gathered to plan their next move. General Maria Gonzalez of Mexico stood before a holographic display of Earth, pointing out key strategic locations. "We've identified several alien command ships," she explained. If we can take them out, we might be able to disrupt their entire operation. As the military planned their counterattack, scientists continued to work on a more permanent solution. In a lab in South Africa, Dr. Kwesi Okoro made a breakthrough that could change everything. The aliens' oxygen-depleting field, he announced to his colleagues, his voice trembling with excitement. I think I've found a way to neutralize it completely. Dr. Okoro's discovery sparked a global effort to develop and deploy his solution. Engineers worked to scale up the technology, while military forces prepared to defend the deployment sites. As these preparations were underway, the aliens seemed to sense that something had changed. Their attacks became more frenzied, more desperate. But humanity stood firm. In cities around the world, people emerged from their underground shelters, wearing protective suits and carrying weapons of their own making. They were no longer running or hiding. They were fighting back. Jake Thompson, the firefighter from New York, now led a team equipped with oxygen regenerators and alien tech disruptors. As they moved through the city, helping those in need and fighting off alien patrols, Jake felt a surge of pride. We're not going down without a fight, he told his team. This is our home, and we're going to take it back. As the sun set on another day of battle, the tide was slowly beginning to turn. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, but they had not broken. Instead, they had innovated, adapted, and come back stronger. In labs and bunkers, in underground cities and orbital stations, humans worked tirelessly to save their world. The aliens had brought their most devastating weapons, but they were about to learn a crucial lesson. Never underestimate human ingenuity and the will to survive. The battle for Earth raged on. But for the first time since the invasion began, hope burned bright in the hearts of humanity. They were no longer just surviving. They were fighting back, and they intended to win. The dawn broke over a changed Earth. Alien ships still loomed in the sky, but something was different. There was a new energy in the air, a sense of purpose that hadn't been there before. Humanity was ready to fight back. In a hidden base beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Laura Chen stood before a group of soldiers from every nation. Their uniforms were different, but their eyes held the same determination. Today, General Chen said, her voice firm, we take the fight to them. Operation Thunderstrike was about to begin. It was a daring plan, born from the collective efforts of military strategists, scientists, and even hackers from around the world. As the soldiers prepared for battle, a team of engineers led by Dr. Rahul Patel put the finishing touches on their secret weapon. It was a fleet of small, agile spacecraft, reverse-engineered from downed alien ships. They may have better technology, Dr. Patel said, patting one of the ships, but we have something they don't: the human spirit. Across the globe, similar preparations were underway. In Beijing, a team of computer experts led by Lai Wei worked furiously to hack into the alien communication systems. We're in, Lai shouted suddenly, her fingers flying over the keyboard. We can track their movements now. The information was quickly relayed to military command centers worldwide. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had the element of surprise. As night fell, Operation Thunderstrike launched. Hundreds of the new human-made spacecraft took to the skies, their pilots a mix of Air Force veterans and video game champions who had trained on simulators. Captain Maya Rodriguez, a former fighter pilot, led the first wave. As her ship broke through the clouds, she saw the massive alien vessel looming ahead. Remember your training, she said into her comm. Hit them hard and fast. The battle was fierce. Alien ships, caught off guard by the sudden attack, scrambled to respond. The sky lit up with explosions and laser fire. On the ground, things were just as chaotic. In Paris, a team led by former thief turned resistance fighter Jean Dupont snuck into an alien ground base. Plant the charges here, Jane whispered, pointing to a strange, pulsing device. It was the source of the oxygen-depleting field over the city. As Jen's team worked, similar operations were carried out in cities around the world. One by one, the aliens' oxygen bombs were disabled. Back in space, Captain Rodriguez's team had managed to breach the hull of the alien command ship. As they fought their way through eerily organic corridors, Maya couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. "Stay focused," she reminded herself and her team. "We have a job to do." Their mission: to plant Dr. Kwesi Okoro's neutralizing device at the heart of the ship. If it worked, it would disable the aliens' ability to deplete oxygen across the entire planet. As Maya's team pushed forward, they encountered heavy resistance. The aliens, with their multiple limbs and advanced weapons, were formidable opponents. But the humans fought with a ferocity born of desperation and hope. In London, Lucy Chen led a group of civilians armed with her special smoke grenades. They provided crucial support to the military forces, confusing alien sensors and creating chaos in their ranks. "For Earth," Lucy shouted as she threw another grenade, her battle cry echoed by those around her. The tide of battle ebbed and flowed. For every victory humans achieved, the aliens seemed to have a counter. But humanity's resolve never wavered. In orbit, Commander Sarah Lee and her crew on the International Space Station played a crucial role. Using their unique vantage point, they coordinated attacks and warned of incoming alien reinforcements. "Watch your six, Maya," Sarah's voice crackled over the comm. "You've got bogeys incoming." The warning came just in time. Maya's team narrowly avoided an ambush, pushing forward towards their goal. As the battle raged on, Dr. Yuki Tanaka worked tirelessly in her lab. She had a theory that if they could adapt her oxygen regenerators, they might be able to create a protective bubble around Earth itself. "Just a little more time," she muttered, her hands steady despite the distant sounds of battle. In the alien command ship, Maya's team finally reached their target. The ship's core was a massive, pulsing, organ-like structure. "This is it," Maya said, pulling out Dr. Okoro's device. "Let's end this." As she activated the device, a blinding light filled the chamber. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. Then, chaos erupted. Alarms blared throughout the alien ship. On Earth, the remaining oxygen bombs sputtered and died. "It's working," Jean shouted from Paris. Similar reports came in from around the world. The alien ships, their main weapon neutralized, began to retreat. But humanity wasn't done yet. The counterattack continued, pushing the invaders back on all fronts. As the sun rose on a new day, the first alien ships were seen leaving Earth's orbit. The battle was far from over, but for the first time since the invasion began, victory seemed possible. General Chen, watching the reports come in, allowed herself a small smile. "We've won this battle," she said. "Now, let's win the war." Humanity had been pushed to the brink, but they had pushed back. The counterattack had begun, and Earth was fighting for its survival with everything it had. The smoke of battle was still clearing when humanity made a breakthrough that would change everything. In the ruins of Sydney, Australia, a team led by Dr. Emma Watson, a xenobiologist, made a startling discovery. "It's alive," Dr. Watson exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder. Before her, trapped in a containment field, was an alien. Unlike the battle-suited invaders they had faced, this one was small, almost frail-looking. As the alien regained consciousness, something unexpected happened. It began to communicate, not through sound, but through a series of color changes on its skin. "It's some kind of bioluminescent language," Dr. Watson realized. She quickly called for a team of linguists and computer experts. Among them was Dr. Alejandro Reyes, an expert in nonverbal communication. "If we can decode this," he said, his voice filled with excitement, "we might finally understand why they're here." For days, the team worked tirelessly. They fed the aliens' color patterns into advanced AI algorithms, cross-referencing them with every known form of communication on Earth. Finally, a breakthrough came. "We've got it," Dr. Rice shouted, startling everyone in the lab. "We can understand them." What they learned shocked them to their core. The alien, who called itself Zix, began to tell its story. "We come from a dying world," Zix communicated. "Our atmosphere is failing. We need a new home." The revelation spread quickly across the globe. Humanity, still reeling from the devastating invasion, struggled to process this new information. In Washington, D.C., world leaders gathered for an emergency summit. The mood was tense as they debated how to respond to this new information. "They're trying to take our planet," one leader argued. "We can't show them any mercy." But others were more thoughtful. "They're fighting for survival, just like us," another pointed out. "Maybe there's a way we can coexist." As the debate raged on, scientists around the world worked to verify Zix's claims. Astronomers turned their telescopes to the aliens' home star system, searching for signs of their dying world. In an observatory high in the Chilean Andes, Dr. Maria Gonzalez made a startling discovery. "It's true," she announced to her colleagues. "Their planet is surrounded by a thick layer of toxic gases. It's uninhabitable." The news sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the inventor of the oxygen regenerator, couldn't help but feel a sense of irony. "They're suffocating on their own world," she mused, "just as they tried to make us suffocate on ours." Back in Sydney, Dr. Watson continued her conversations with Zix. She learned more about the aliens' biology, their culture, and their desperate journey across the stars. "Our leaders believed your world was uninhabited," Zix explained. "When they discovered your civilization, they feared you would resist. They chose to attack first." The more Dr. Watson learned, the more she realized how similar the aliens were to humans, despite their alien appearance. They had families, dreams, and fears. They were fighting for survival, just like humanity. As this information spread, public opinion began to shift. While many still called for revenge, others began to ask if there might be another way. In New York, Jake Thompson, the firefighter turned resistance fighter, found himself conflicted. "They killed so many," he said to his team. "But if it was us, if Earth was dying, wouldn't we do the same?" The ethical dilemma weighed heavily on everyone. How could humanity balance their own survival with the potential extinction of another species? In labs around the world, scientists began to explore possible solutions. Could Earth's atmosphere be modified to accommodate both species? Was there a way to help the aliens terraform another planet? Dr. Kwesi Okoro, whose device had been crucial in the counterattack, now turned his attention to this new challenge. "If we can neutralize their oxygen-depleting technology," he theorized, "maybe we can use it to create a breathable atmosphere on Mars or Venus." As these ideas circulated, tensions remained high. Some human factions, unwilling to forgive the invasion, called for the complete expulsion of the aliens. On the other side, alien hardliners continued to push for the conquest of Earth. The fate of both species hung in the balance. The next few days would determine whether this first contact would end in mutual destruction or a new era of interstellar cooperation. In orbit, Commander Sarah Lee looked down at the blue planet below. "We've always wondered if we were alone in the universe," she said to her crew. "Now we know we're not. The question is, can we find a way to live together?" As night fell on a war-torn but hopeful Earth, humanity faced its greatest challenge yet. The aliens' motivations were clear, but the path forward was anything but. In the coming days, the true test of humanity's compassion, ingenuity, and determination would begin. The world held its breath as an unprecedented meeting was about to take place. In a heavily guarded facility in Geneva, representatives from Earth were preparing to face their alien counterparts in the first official diplomatic talks. Dr. Amelia Cortez, a renowned diplomat and xenobiologist, stood at the head of the human delegation. Her heart raced, but her face remained calm. "Remember," she told her team, "this could be the most important conversation in human history." On the other side of the room, a group of aliens led by Zix entered. Their translucent skin shimmered with patterns of light, their form of communication. Dr. Alejandro Reyes, armed with the latest translation technology, stood ready to interpret. As the talks began, tension filled the air. Both sides were wary, memories of the recent conflict still fresh in their minds. "We come seeking peace," Six's colors flickered. Dr. Reyes translated quickly. Dr. Cortez nodded. "We are willing to listen, but you must understand the harm you've caused our world." What followed was a grueling negotiation that lasted for days. The aliens explained their desperate situation in more detail. Their world was dying faster than they had anticipated. Earth was their last hope for survival. "But we cannot simply give you our planet," argued General Chen, who represented Earth's military interests. "Our people have a right to live here." The aliens' lights pulsed rapidly, a sign of agitation. "We have the power to take this world by force," they warned. The room grew tense. It seemed the talks might break down at any moment. Then, Dr. Yuki Tanaka stepped forward. "What if we could help you find another solution?" she asked. "A way for both our species to survive." Her words caught everyone's attention. Dr. Tanaka explained her idea: to use a combination of human and alien technology to terraform Mars or Venus, creating a new home for the alien species. The aliens' lights flickered in rapid patterns as they discussed among themselves. Finally, Six spoke. "This could work, but it would take time we may not have." Dr. Kwesi Okoro, who had been quietly observing, suddenly spoke up. "What if we could buy you that time?" he asked. He explained his theory of using modified alien technology to create temporary habitable zones on Earth while the terraforming project was underway. The room buzzed with excited discussion. For the first time, a real solution seemed possible. But not everyone was convinced. Hardliners on both sides argued against cooperation. Some humans couldn't forgive the invasion, while some aliens didn't trust humans to keep their word. Jake Thompson, representing the views of many who had fought in the resistance, stood up. "I lost friends to this war," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "But I've also seen the cost of continuing to fight. If there's a chance for peace, we have to take it." His words seemed to shift the mood in the room. Even those who had been skeptical began to consider the possibility of cooperation. As the negotiations continued, teams of scientists from both species began to work together. Dr. Emma Watson and Six led a joint research project, combining their knowledge to tackle the challenges ahead. In orbit, Commander Sarah Lee coordinated with alien ships to begin planning the Mars terraforming mission. "I never thought I'd be working alongside those we were fighting just weeks ago," she mused. On Earth, the news of the potential peace agreement spread. There were protests and celebrations in equal measure. Some welcomed the aliens as potential allies, while others demanded they leave immediately. World leaders worked tirelessly to explain the situation to their people. It was a hard sell, but slowly, public opinion began to shift. In the labs, progress was being made. Dr. Tanaka and her alien counterparts successfully created a prototype of a device that could generate small, sustainable habitable zones for the aliens on Earth. "It's not a permanent solution," Dr. Tanaka explained to the diplomatic team, "but it could house a significant portion of their population while we work on terraforming Mars." As the days passed, the outline of an agreement began to take shape. The aliens would help repair the damage done to Earth and share their advanced technology. In return, humanity would help them establish a new home on Mars and provide temporary sanctuary on Earth. It wasn't a perfect solution. There were still many details to work out, and trust was fragile on both sides. But it was a start. As the diplomatic team prepared to announce the preliminary agreement to the world, Dr. Cortez looked around the room at humans and aliens working side by side. "We came close to destroying each other," she said softly. "But instead, we might just save each other." The road ahead would be long and challenging. But for the first time since the aliens arrived, there was real hope for a peaceful future. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just as survivors, but as architects of a new interstellar age. 5 years had passed since the historic peace agreement between humans and aliens. The red plains of Mars stretched out before Dr. Emma Watson as she stepped out of the terraforming station. She took a deep breath of the thin but breathable Martian atmosphere, a testament to the incredible progress they had made. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" a familiar voice said. Emma turned to see Zix, its skin shimmering with patterns of contentment. The alien diplomat had become one of her closest friends over the years. "It is," Emma agreed. "I never thought I'd see Mars like this in my lifetime." Back on Earth, the skylines of major cities had changed. Alien habitation domes dotted the landscape, shimmering under the sun. In one such dome in New York, Jake Thompson led a group of human and alien children on a tour. "And this is how we generate oxygen for our alien friends," Jake explained, pointing to a modified version of Dr. Tanaka's original oxygen regenerator. The children, both human and alien, listened with fascination. In orbit, the International Space Station had grown into a sprawling complex. Human and alien scientists worked side by side, their combined knowledge pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Commander Sarah Lee, now Director of Interstellar Operations, oversaw the construction of Earth's first faster-than-light spacecraft. "With this," Sarah said to her mixed crew, "we'll be able to explore the galaxy together." The journey hadn't been easy. In the early days after the peace agreement, there had been tensions and setbacks. Some humans still distrusted the aliens, and some aliens feared human retaliation. But as the years passed and the benefits of cooperation became clear, most of the mistrust faded. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, now heading the Global Environmental Restoration Project, stood on a once barren field that was now lush with vegetation. Alien technology, combined with human ingenuity, had accelerated the healing of Earth's damaged ecosystems. "We nearly destroyed each other," Yuki mused to her alien colleague. "Instead, we ended up saving not just ourselves, but our entire planet." In Geneva, Dr. Amelia Cortez presided over a meeting of the newly formed Interstellar Council. Representatives from Earth and the alien homeworld discussed plans for the future. The agenda included establishing colonies on other planets and moons in the solar system, and preparing for potential contact with other alien species. "We must remember the lessons we've learned," Amelia said to the assembly. "Cooperation and understanding are the keys to our shared future." Meanwhile, in laboratories across the globe, human and alien scientists made breakthrough after breakthrough. Dr. Kwesi Okoro and his alien partner had just announced a revolutionary clean energy source that promised to end dependency on fossil fuels once and for all. "This is just the beginning," Kwesi said at the press conference, his alien colleague's skin pulsing with excited patterns beside him. But perhaps the most profound changes were happening in everyday life. In parks and cafes, in schools and workplaces, humans and aliens mingled freely. Children who had been born after the peace agreement grew up seeing aliens not as invaders, but as neighbors and friends. In a small town in Japan, a human girl and an alien child played together in a park. They didn't need translators anymore. A new hybrid language had evolved, combining human speech and alien color patterns. "Come on," the girl said, her skin flickering with excitement. "Let's go explore." As night fell, families across Earth and in the habitation domes on Mars gathered to watch the launch of the first interstellar mission. The ship, crewed by both humans and aliens, was heading to a nearby star system to establish first contact with a newly discovered intelligent species. Dr. Alejandro Reyes, now the head of the Interstellar Communication Department, gave a speech before the launch. "Years ago, we faced extinction. Today, we reach for the stars together. Our differences once divided us, but now they are our greatest strength." As the ship lifted off, carrying the hopes and dreams of two once-enemy species, people everywhere felt a sense of awe and possibility. On a hill overlooking the launch site, General Laura Chen, now retired, stood with Zix. They watched the ship disappear into the night sky, a symbol of how far they had come. Did you ever imagine this when you first came to our world? Laura asked. Zix's colors swirled thoughtfully. No, it admitted. We came seeking survival. Instead, we found partners for a journey beyond our wildest dreams. As the ship vanished from sight, heading towards humanity's next great adventure, Earth continued to spin. It was no longer just the home of humanity, but a shining example of what could be achieved when different species came together, turning conflict into cooperation and fear into hope. The era of isolation was over. Together, humanity and their alien allies looked to the future, ready to face whatever challenges the vast universe might hold.